trying to cope with this young girlfriend, being a young father, trying to provide. She couldn't finish school. I couldn't finish school, and so I needed to get a job. So I went to school, and throughout all of this, I began selling drugs. I began selling crack. I began selling heroin. I began selling weed. And the crew that I rolled with, I remember a guy that used to work with us disappeared by the boss. He came up short like $40, and he disappeared. To this day, I never seen him again. You know, I'm not gonna say no names. Well, this is in Buffalo, so from where I'm from, you know, everybody knew each other to this place where I don't know none of you guys, and y'all know each other. So it was simple for them to make me disappear if I didn't comply with the gang. When in this process, you know, we began to have to do, you know, crimes to bring money back to the pot, to the hood, so that we can keep this so-called thing going. And like I said, you know, I got a new son coming. By the time he was born, I had already been to jail. I had did 2 years in Windy, medium state penitentiary in what is it, Alden, New York, or something like that. Outside of Buffalo. When I came home, I was on 5 years probation again. When I came back home, she, you know, before I knew it, she was pregnant again with my second son. And so I went back to school and got a CNA license. And so, you know, that was big stuff by then. You know, I'm a nurse, but every day I came home, I would drink like 4 or 5 40 ounces of beer and smoke about at least almost a quarter ounce of weed. And when my girlfriend wasn't looking, I'd step out on the side and smoke this thing they call a wooly. It's crack cocaine mixed in with weed in a blunt.
Wooly?
It's called a wooly, W-H-O-O-L-E-Y. When I hit that thing, my life altered from that abandoned building to getting back into school, getting my GED. I went to school from that building. You know, I would take my clothes home when my mother wasn't there and have my sisters wash them and stuff like that. But at night, that's where I slept for a long time, for almost 8 months. And so when I got my GED, I ended up getting, you know, going back to school and getting this 6 months. So I was in that building for almost a year. And, you know, and I tried to tell myself I'm not like y'all, you know, because I got a couple of, you know, pair of pants, some nice jeans. And so when I got my CNA, I got my job and got my apartment. I got with her, and being that she was pregnant, we got into an apartment because she can get DSS, or what y'all call it here, welfare, so to speak. So she was getting food stamps and getting money for the, you know, for my 2 sons, and with my money, selling drugs and going to work. I would buy furniture, food, you know, extra stuff for the boys, and before you know it, she was pregnant with my 3rd son. So right now, I'm playing house. And me and her were together for like 9 years, 8 years, 9 years. I was in my son's life. But I continued to get high. I continued to drink. And I continued to go to jail. I didn't correlate that with, you know, the using of drugs. And so, you know, we began to fall out a lot. And on my days off, I stayed with my sons and I vowed to them that I'd never let them turn out to be like me. But I didn't realize that 19, 20 years old with 3 sons, 21 years old with 3 sons, that they mimic everything you do and they are who you are. And so, you know, of course they were young and everything, but I ended up leaving. Leaving at about 22 years old. I left her with 3 sons, you know, with 3 sons. And I feel bad about that. And I remember I came home one day and there was a guy sitting on my couch. And I never told her why I left. And I regret that to this day, you know. I never told her why I left her with my 3 sons, and she's a young mother. And so I left. I went back to school. First I went out. It was payday. And every night I used to come home and look in the window and my son said, Daddy, Daddy. But this particular day, there was a dude sitting on my couch and I don't know who he was. So So when I left, I went and got real high that day, and I began picking fights. And so I remember I spent my whole paycheck on getting high. And I came to my mother and I told her that, me and Anissa are not going to be together anymore. She cheated on me, stuff like that. And I came back to Syracuse. When I got back to Syracuse, I got involved with the same crew that I went with. And for like 2 years, I didn't even look for work. I just did house parties and, hustled on the side, and we stole and we robbed. And I remember wanting to get high and didn't have no money, and I did a home invasion. I did a burglary of a home invasion with a young family, and at gunpoint, it's a shame because luckily there was no kids in the house, and I'm saying this not to be proud or anything, but the drugs took me to a place where I didn't care, and so when I did the home invasion, I got away, but I felt like God had abandoned me at that point. And then my life began to go downhill faster than I ever thought. I was doing cocaine every day, crack actually. I was drinking, smoking weed every day. By this time, with the back and forth, I had lost all my clothes. I had like maybe 2 outfits, 2 pair of drawers, 2 pair of socks. I remember going to the homeless shelter, and I'm only like 22, 23 at this time, maybe 24, going to the homeless shelter to wash out my stuff, eating there. And I remember it got so bad that I went to a detox, and I didn't know, I just wanted everything to stop so I can get my life back together. And I went to a detox. It was only like 4 days, but it was like I just wanna get my life together. Show me how to get high correctly. Show me how to drink where I don't lose everything. Show me how to, spend my money and pay my bills and get high. But that wasn't the case. When I got out of the detox and I stayed clean, I managed to stay clean for like 6 months. I called my girl, checked on the kids. I began to save some money, and I went back up. And for Christmas, I bought all this stuff. And I felt like a king, right? Daddy showed up. And I stayed with her for about 2 weeks. I took a vacation, and I came back and went back to work. And I tried to manage that long distance relationship for a while. And I remember I got back with one of my old friends from the neighborhood because he had went to New York, and when he came back, he had all these drugs, and we were supposed to sell them. He was violent. He was notorious. He was my best friend, and we used to rob drug dealers. We used to work for the gangs, for gang rivalry. We would not wet work. I didn't never kill nobody or nothing like that, but we would really damage other people from other gangs for money, and they would never fall back on the other gang to start rivals. So that was kind of like our business. And we had a little crew with that.
Kind of like muscle.
Yeah, it's kind of like muscle, silent muscle.
Right.
And so we had a crew of some real dangerous guys, and me and my best friend was the head of that. I'm not proud of that because we brought a lot of young kids who didn't finish school, and we showed them how to be and how to get into this kind of lifestyle. And they began smoking a lot of weed and drinking, and they were hanging out with us, and we showed them how to rob, steal, cheat. We showed them how to sell drugs. We showed them how to do crimes, and we lived that way for a long time. In the meantime, I was sending a little bit of money back and forth to my sons, but it wasn't often. It became less and less. At this stage of the game, I began getting high more, but I was covering up to all my friends, and so I had to tell my best friend, look, I got to take a leave of absence because I had did this crime, and I know they were looking for me. And so I kind of laid low for about 2 years, and And then I met my ex-wife. She was my wife, of course. I met her. When I was working at Shopping Town Mall some years ago, I met her, and then she was in college, and when she met me, I was destitute. I was using drugs so much that like I wasn't eating, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like throughout all of my addiction, I didn't not one day without eating something. And I gotta say that because I know that like God has been with me from the very beginning. And I didn't realize it then, but I'm talking about like a meal of crab apples for like a month. You know, just eating apples off a tree to survive. I've done a lot of things to survive. So, you know, it got bad, and so she, you know, she got with me and she cleaned me all up and got me in the church. And I was going to church with her and her parents, and life got good. Life got good. We ended up having a son and getting married. And this is my fourth son. That's him right there. Zaire. He's in the middle. He just now finished his second training in the Marines. Wow. I'm real proud of him. When we got married, you know, we lived together, and we were purchasing a home. We were leasing a home to buy it from her parents. And things were going good. And after she had my son, she went to the Navy. When she went to the Navy, at this point in time, I wasn't getting high as much, but I was drinking a lot. You know, the old dad can drink and be the you know, that's what I'm supposed to do. Dads work, come home, pay bills, and drink. And that was my motto. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. By this time, I had met my father, and we started hanging out a lot. My father was an addict. He was a heroin addict of needles. He drank a lot, smoked crack. He did everything. Matter of fact, we were doing it all together, except for the needles. He was my best friend. He was my get high buddy. He was my friend. He was my father, and I loved him dearly. You know, but he was a worse addict than I was. Well, maybe not. Maybe we were both bad addicts. But we got real tight. And I remember coming home from work one night when me and my wife had this house, and I stopped by this place called Lois's in Syracuse South Side. And on my way home, I'm walking through the projects on the south side called Brick City, and it was winter time. And I walked past this guy, and for no reason at all, he stabbed me. He just stabbed me twice in my arm, my left arm. And when I walked past him, you know, I'm like, what? You know, and the next thing I know, he's coming at me with this big butcher knife. And so we brawling on the ground, and you know, I'm fighting for my life here, and you know, we tussling, and he's trying to stab me in my face, and I'm dodging it. And finally, I got him with my one stabbed arm. I got him. I got the knife in his hand in one arm, and I got him off of me. And next thing I know, a stranger came and pulled him off of me. And so with my frame of thinking, I was drinking. I was high at the time. I lost a lot of blood. I ran home. And my wife was like, well, hey, how you doing? What's wrong? I'm like, oh, it's nothing. I'm bleeding profusely. And I grabbed my two butcher knives and I ran back to the spot. She called the police, and I went down there, and I called that friend I was telling you about, the backup, the crew. The police were on their way, and by the time the police, they were all the way across town. They made it there before the police did. And we were scouring the neighborhood. And I'm on the phone booth, and you know, and he's on the phone. I'm talking to him, and like four of my guys were there, and he was on his way. And I told him that the police had came. And so he was like, don't worry about it, man. Just, you know, do what they say do. So the police was saying to me, Derek, drop your weapons. We know you got a weapon. You better drop it right now or we're going to shoot you. And I wouldn't drop my weapons. I was ready to fight the police. And at this time, I wasn't, you know, high anymore. Of course, it was in my system, but I was on straight adrenaline. I had lost so much blood, I was ready to pass out. And so the cop said, Derek, we know you got stabbed. We know something happened. Drop your weapons. It's going to be okay. We're not going to arrest you. And at that point, I dropped my weapons. They took me to the emergency room, and they operated on me. I got 97 stitches inside my arm and like 30 stitches on staples on the outside. So my whole arm was reconstructed, basically from the muscle and tissue and nerve damage. The knife went all the way through my arm, a butcher knife.
What was the area where this happened again?
This was on the south side. It's called Pioneer Homes or something now, but back then it was called Brick City.
Brick City.
Yeah.
Was that like kind of an informal name, or was that actually what
That
it
was
was
the
called?
informal name.
Okay, that's
It
just
was
what you
called
guys call
Pioneer
it.
Homes.
Gotcha.
Pioneer Homes. So at that stage, my life had come to a point where I realized that it had the guy, I guess, who was looking for me found me. And so I had dreads at the time, and I shaved my head, and I kind of laid low. My wife went to the Navy. So when she went to the Navy,
This was who you mentioned earlier when you laid low for a while.
Yeah.
This was who you were talking about was looking for you.
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
I believe so.
How much time passed between
the time that he was looking for me until he found me?
Yeah.
About 6-7 months. About 6-7 months.
And what was the issue that led to that?
Well, like I told you, we were doing, muscle work.
Right.
And then when I laid low, it was because we robbed quite a few drug dealers.
Gotcha.
I don't know how he found my name out or how he found out I did it, but I'm assuming that probably was the issue.
Gotcha.
And it was weird because it was like, why would he be there at that time or whatever? But that's just how karma is. And maybe he wasn't even the guy, but all the hurt and harm I was causing, this is one way that it probably came back to me.
So it felt karmic. Yeah.
So I ended up going back to Buffalo because me and my wife broke up. She was in the Navy. I went to Rhode Island with her when she's in the Navy, and she ended up finding someone else. And I gotta say, a lot of people say, oh, she cheated on you, but today I understand that nobody want a drunken dope fiend for a husband. That's just the reality of it. She moved on with her life. I was intolerable. There was no possible way she could move on with her life if I was going to be this way. And I was putting my son in jeopardy. So, for some reason, she sent the MPs to my house and I signed these papers, and I didn't realize that. I signed papers to turn my custody over to them. And I didn't know that because I was drunk when they came, hungover. I thought I was signing some kind of papers for they told me if she dies, you get all this money. I signed it right off, right? But those were custody papers. So at this stage of the game, once again, I started using, and I left her, and I went back to Buffalo and got back into the old life with the old gang. So at this point in time, I'm back and forth to Buffalo a lot, and I ended up getting into another assault charge. I robbed an old lady and snatched her purse, and she fell down. I think she broke like a couple of hips, broke her hip or something. And I opened it up, man. She had like $7.80 in it, and the police caught me, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I had sunk to such a level. And I told you, I was raised by my great grandmother. I was raised in the church, man. They say I respect my elders, and I turned into a damn monster, man. I did not care. When my wife left me, I have a whole blank of like 7 years that I just don't recall. And I remember that was my last straw. As far as when I said that I felt that God turned his back on me, that was the last straw where I just stopped caring about life. I felt that my mother didn't love me. The mother of my 3 kids cheated on me, and now my ex-wife divorced me and left me and cheated on me too. And so I began to drink and use and hurt people like I've never hurt before. And at this stage, there was no one Derek left. I was going by the stage name Doc at the time, and the Mad Doc, actually, like the Mad Scientist, and with rapping and breakdancing, all that stuff came on, and it fit my persona. My friends told me, you're getting high too much, you're drinking too much. They called me the drunk monk. I was never caught without a beer in my hand. And during the day I tried to maintain, but at night I would turn into this Mr. Hyde. And I remember I ended up getting an opportunity. I went to rehab. I remember that now. At the Willows. And I stayed there for 28 days. And then I went to SBH, Syracuse Brick House. And I got clean. I got clean for like 3 years. Like 2 years. And my life became phenomenal.
How old were you when this happened?
Maybe 20, 28, 27, 28 years old. And so I was working at Ruby Tuesdays, and I had been there for a long time. My best friend, he started turning his life around. He got married. He had kids. And I'm like, wow, he got clean. He was clean for years. The one that we started the screw.
Right.
He turned his life around, man, and I wanted that. And he showed me how to do it. He took me to a meeting one time, and I went drunk. But they accepted me anyway. And so when I got clean, I knew that there was a place I could go that I didn't have to be drunk. I didn't have to go somewhere. And because I'm with you, I have to drink, but I couldn't do it on my own. And so I stayed clean in Narcotics Anonymous at this time for 2 years. And I ended up opening up the Kahunaville in the Carousel Mall. And because I was clean, I was reliable, I was on time, I worked real hard. And they ended up sending me out to Massachusetts to open up another Kahunaville.
Mm-hmm.
And I trained like 65 to 75 people. The place was enormous. You guys remember Kahunaville? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, it was incredible. And so my life was looking really good. And so when we went out there, I'm out there for 2 weeks. And I hadn't been to a meeting. And I hadn't called my sponsor. And I didn't call anybody in recovery. And so when we got done training them, we all went to a celebration. And I remember my manager knew that I was a recovering addict, and he put 2 cold Heinekens in front of me, and it was like a picture. It was like the movies. You know, popped the cork and the smoke came out, and it was beads of ice cold water dripping off the bottle, and without second thought, I slammed him. That night, I stole my friend's truck, went to found a neighborhood in Massachusetts, and started buying crack. I had like $5,000 on me. And, because we saved all the money, we didn't have to spend nothing. They were paying us double our salary. It was an incredible opportunity, and I blew it. It got so bad that I came back to work late the next day. They knew I was high and drunk. They knew I had a relapse, and they fired me on the spot. I was broke, and I was stuck in Massachusetts. I don't know how I managed to get home, but I came home, and I just went on another run. Blaming everybody. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. That was the first time I got clean. I ended up going to Michigan. No, that's what it was. It wasn't Massachusetts, it was Michigan. We opened up the Kahunaville.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up getting back to Michigan and working for Chili's, and I remember going to Michigan, and I loved it there because it was like the first time I saw real green grass. Like it was the first time that my eyes were open to a different life. It was beautiful there. In Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so I tried to get my life together, and I moved in with this lady who used to work with us at Kahunaville. I got in contact with her. She let me stay with her for a while until I got my own place. And it started all over again. And I ended up getting with my drug dealer. She was a female, and I talked her into getting high with me. And she had a job. She was doing good. And before it was over, in the next 4 years, man, I must have weighed like 100 pounds. everything in my life had turned to crap. You could see her shoulder blades out her back. It got so bad that she lost her job, but she had been there long enough to retire. So they gave her like a severance pay and a pension. Like you gotta go. You can't work here looking like that. And so she got that. It was like $50,000, man. We smoked about $30,000 of that crap, man. Drinking and smoking. We did a little shopping, but and she's like, we gotta stop, and we can't. And I said, I know a place where we can stop. And she was like, she never heard of Narcotics Anonymous before. And I said, but the problem is, what I know about drugs is, if you go into recovery with this money, you're not gonna stay clean. The way this drug is, you will leave recovery. You will leave the rehab to go get high if you know you got means and money to do it. So we gotta finish.
You have to go in at bottom.
We gotta go absolute bottom. And we did. We went to the bottom. We almost died, man. We sold every single solitary thing we had, right down to every last fork. We sold it all. And when we got done, we smoked that last whatever it was, I told her I'm going to rehab. And I left her. I got clean. And stayed clean for a while, for like another 3 years, and she ended up getting clean shortly after. Her insurance wouldn't, she couldn't go to rehab. Her insurance wouldn't take it, so she had to white knuckle it. And I told her like what to do. Like, come to meetings. I'll meet you at meetings. And she started to come. Her life got fantastic. Mine did too. We didn't rekindle the relationship in that area because it was based on drugs, and so we were way too weak to begin that relationship again. We would have been triggering each other.
Right.
We were real close. I loved her dearly, but the drugs had took us both, and so we ended up moving. I moved to Atlanta through Ruby Tuesdays because I had been with them so long. They had me being what they call a spec operator, and so I moved to Atlanta, and I'm clean, and I get to Atlanta, and she ends up moving to Atlanta trying to find me. I didn't even know she was coming. But by the time she got there, I was already getting high again. I lost my job. I was about to get evicted. By the time she got there, I left, and I came back to Syracuse, and this is where